Very good morning, dear students. I am Rakesh Patel from R.G. Shah Science College, and along with me is Dr. S.R. Dave. We are here to discuss regarding the introduction to microbial diversity, a very new subject, and for that I have chosen a very right person, an expert in the field of microbial diversity. He is Professor and Head, Department of Microbiology and Biotechnology, School of Sciences, Gujarat University, Dr. Shailesh R. Dave. Dr. Dave is a person, I think everybody in Gujarat knows him, in the field of microbiology knows him well. But just a brief introduction I would like to give. He has been in the field of microbiology over the last 38 years. As a student of microbiology and as a keen researcher in the field of microbiology, he has taught as well as carried out research in this field for more than 35 years. He is an excellent teacher and has an unexceptional command over the subject. Till now, he has worked at the School of Sciences, Gujarat University, and under him 19 students have cleared their PhD degree. About double the number, that is 38 students have done their MPhil degree, and he has published more than 90 research papers at a national and international level. Apart from this, he also has 4 major research projects over which the work is going on, and finished more than 12-13 different projects so far. So far he has contributed in the field of geomicrobiology, in which he is considered to be expert in India, and of late, apart from geomicrobiology, he has focused his attention even to the diversity of microorganisms. So for this topic, there is an expert of international stature who is going to explain us in brief, in a very simple and lucid language, regarding the microbial diversity. So, Dave sir, before we begin the topic, let me just brief you is the diversity, microbial diversity. Diversity, basically, what does that mean, or what is the meaning of the word diversity?
Microbial diversity means variety and variability of the organisms, in which we are looking for different characteristics of organisms. If you read these definitions, the variety and variability among living organisms and the ecological complexes in which they live. It is not only dealing with the types of organisms, but it's also dealing with the habitat in which these organisms are living, and how these habitats are different from each other, and how these organisms are functioning in the different habitats to do many types of the metabolic activity. That is known as microbial diversity or biodiversity.
Well, nicely explained. In Gujarati, you can say diversity means vividta, and biodiversity means we are dealing with the biological systems, that is the living organisms. So, vividta je આપણે જીવંત વસ્તુઓની અંદર છે, પ્લાન્ટ્સ, એનિમલ, માઇક્રોઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ, એને આપણે બાયોડાયવર્સિટી કહી શકીએ. તો દવે સાહેબ, બીજો સવાલ એ ઉદ્ભવ થાય છે કે આ શબ્દનો ઓરિજિન શું છે? ડાયવર્સિટી વર્ડ ક્યાંથી ઉદ્ભવ્યો?
Now, if we look to the origin of this word, then the term was originated in 1980 by Lovejoy scientist. And if you consider this is a much more new branch or recent branch even as compared to the biotechnology. The other scientists, Norsay and McManus, they have used this word in respect to the genetics and ecological diversity. Walters in 85 and Wilson in 88, they have used this word for a general purpose, and this particular word, biodiversity, has first appeared in biological abstracts biosis in 1988.
Well said, Dr. Dave. This word, as you know, હમણાં જ લગભગ 1980 ની અંદર અસ્તિત્વમાં આવ્યો અને 85-88 ની અંદર એનો કોમન યુઝ થવા માંડ્યો છે. તો બીજી વસ્તુ એમાં આગળ એ પૂછવાની છે કે બાયોડાયવર્સિટી સ્ટડીઝ માટે કયા કયા જુદા જુદા લેવલ્સ ઉપર બાયોડાયવર્સિટીની સ્ટડીઝ થાય છે?
If we want to study biodiversity not only for microorganisms but for plants, animals, insects, any living creatures, then mainly this biodiversity term or this study would be classified or they would be studied in the form of species or taxonomic diversity, ecosystem diversity or a community diversity, genetic diversity, physiological diversity, and last one would be functional diversity. So this word can be studied in this 5 or 6 manner.
Acha. Now the next is, what is the status of plant and animal biodiversity? What I mean to ask is, before we switch over to the microbial diversity in detail, what is the basic status? How many organisms are there? What are the organisms which have been undergone a period of extinction or who are endangered? So please explain us the status of plant and animal biodiversity.
As we have selected this topic because due to the industrializations and optimizations of many processes, pollution is created in the atmosphere, and that leads to the death of many organisms, and many of the plants and animals, they are on the verge of the extinctions. If you look to these slides, you will find that not a single country was left out with these effects. In USSR, Asia, Africa, Latin America, Northeast, if you look to the total number, then out of 2,790, nearly 391 are at risk and nearly 295 are already extinct. So this is a very big amount, and if you find these numbers, definitely we are concerned with. Now what we will do if we will not control these pollutions or we will not take to preserve or conserve this biodiversity? If you look into this next slides, then some of the crops normally we use for our food or we use as a fruit, now they are also having a lot of risk. Now if you take the oat, rice, sorghums, groundnut, lentils, peach, tomato, potato, and still we don't have any proper process to conserve this biodiversity or to conserve this plant.
Well said. ડોક્ટર દવે, આમાં એક બીજું ઉમેરવા માંગીશ. ફોર એક્ઝામ્પલ કે એન્ડેન્જર સ્પીસીઝની અંદર એનિમલ્સમાં જેવી રીતે આપણે ઇન્ડિયાની અંદર પણ થોડાક વર્ષો પહેલા જે ટાઈગર હતા, દે વેર ઓન ધ વર્જ ઓફ એક્સટિંક્શન, એટલે એન્ડેન્જર્ડ થઈ ગયા હતા. બહુ ઓછા ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ હતા, બહુ ઓછા ટાઈગર્સ હતા. પણ ગવર્મેન્ટના જે અમુક પ્રોજેક્ટ ટાઈગર રિઝર્વ્સ અને જે ફોરેસ્ટને રિઝર્વ રાખ્યા અને જે એમની સંભાળ રાખવા માંડી, એના લીધે છેલ્લા 10 વર્ષની અંદર ટાઈગર્સની સંખ્યા વધી શકી છે. સો ધીસ ઇઝ વોટ બેઝિકલી પ્રિકોશન્સ વન કેન ટેક દેટ વી વિલ ડિસ્કસ ઇન ડિટેલ એટ અ લેટર સ્ટેજીસ. પણ કહેવાનો મતલબ એમ છે કે પ્લાન્ટ્સ અને એનિમલ્સ આવી રીતે જે એના બીજ હોય એ પણ ઘણા એક્સટિંક્ટ થઈ જવા માંડ્યા છે, જે એના અમુક એરિયાની અંદર સદંતર નાશ પામેલા છે, અને આપણે એની કાળજી નહીં લઈએ તો ભવિષ્યની અંદર એ ટોટલી ડિસઅપિયર થઈ જશે. નાઉ ધ નેક્સ્ટ ક્વેશ્ચન ઇઝ, we now would like to shift over to the actual subject, that is microbial diversity. So can you please focus on the microbial diversity itself?
Now we have discussed biodiversity in general, but if we want to focus on microbial diversity, as we know that microorganisms, they are very small in size. It is very difficult to study microbial diversity. If you want to study the plant diversity or animal diversity, you can go to any field and just count and observe plant or animal and you can differentiate them. While in case of microorganisms, that is not possible. In case of microorganisms, if we broadly give the types of the organism which are included under the heading of microbial diversity, which includes bacteria, archaea, fungi, algae, protozoa, and number of the less known lower eukaryotes which are very small in size. Now if we want to know that what is the total number of these organisms that are existing on the planet Earth. Then as per the determinations and the analysis done by Hoxworth, particularly for fungal species, then they have estimated that on the planet Earth there would be around 1.6 million of the fungi are present. And how they are calculated, when they have done the analysis, they have found that for any individual plant, if you analyze, you will get at least 6 different species of the fungi, and there are totally 270,000 plants are there, and if you multiply this with the 6, then you will get 1.6 million of the fungal flora on planet Earth. But out of this, we are knowing very less. We are knowing hardly 72,000 of a fungal flora. If you look to study the microbial diversity, then you have to go for some other techniques, as for example DNA techniques, RNA techniques, fishing techniques, and many more non-culturable organism technique. Then you can study this microbial diversity. It includes the small subunit ribosomal DNA, and by using this molecular biological techniques, and if you look to the inclusion of a biolog, FAME, API, and other non-classical or non-usual methods, then definitely we can get more information about the microorganisms and their differentiations among each others. There is no decline in the number of the research papers which are published even in the 21st century, and same number of the research papers are published regarding the new organism. It itself shows that there is a lot of work to be done in this field.
વિદ્યાર્થી મિત્રો, તો દવે સાહેબે જે તમને જણાવ્યું that there are so many microorganisms. Basically microorganismsના આપણે જોઈ નથી શકતા, માટે એનું સર્ચ, એનો નંબર, એની પ્રકાર એ બધી કેટલી છે એ આપણે જાણવું લગભગ બહુ મુશ્કેલી ભર્યું છે. છતાં પણ રફ એસ્ટિમેટ પ્રમાણે એમણે કહ્યું કે 1.6 મિલિયનથી પણ વધારે ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ હોઈ શકે. અને આ કમ્પેરેટિવ એસ્પેક્ટ્સ જે બતાવ્યો હોક્સવર્થના કહેવા પ્રમાણે કે અમુક રેશિયોમાં જો પ્લાન્ટ્સ હોય તો ફોર એવરી પ્લાન્ટ દેર આર 6 ફંજાઈ, અને એ રીતે તમે મલ્ટીપ્લાય કરી અને નંબર ડિરાઈવ કરી શકો છો. અને જે એમણે જણાવ્યું કે હજી પણ આટલા સાયન્ટિફિક ટેકનોલોજીકલ ડેવલપમેન્ટ પછી પણ અત્યારે નવા નવા ઓર્ગેનિઝમો એ જ રીતે ડિસ્કવર થઈ રહ્યા છે, એ જ રીતે અથવા તો કદાચ એના કરતાં પણ વધારે નંબર આપણી જાણમાં આવી રહ્યા છે, કારણ કે સાયન્સ અને ટેકનોલોજી જે ટેકનિક્સ છે બધી નવી નવી ડેવલપ થઈ રહી છે, જે પહેલા નહોતી. તો હવે આગળ એક વસ્તુ હું પૂછવા માંગુ છું દવે સાહેબ તમને કે પ્લાન્ટ, એનિમલ્સ, માઇક્રો ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ અથવા તો આપણે ઇન જનરલ કહીએ બીજા બધા લિવિંગ ક્રિએચર્સનું ફાયલોજેનેટિક લેવલનું કમ્પેરિઝન્સ આપણે કેવી રીતે કરીએ છીએ?
If we want to do the phylogenetic comparisons, in case of microorganisms, as we are not able to see with the naked eyes, you have to observe under the microscope. You can see from the slides, now what are the different shape of these organisms. You can find a spherical shape, you can find a rod shape, you can find a shape between the spherical and rod, you can find a shape which is spiraling, and these types of the observations will give you the further informations regarding in this next slides. You can find a distinct shape of these organisms, and apart from bacteria, you can see the other organisms. And if we compare this, then this is a phylogenetic tree. Now the question arises. Now we talk about the lot of diversity of plants, animals. But if you look to this phylogenetic tree, now there are only 2 branches. One branch for plants and one branch for animals. Whereas there are more than 23 branches for microorganisms. So if we take a rough estimate, when we find such a big diversity regarding microorganisms, regarding plants and animals, and when plants and animals they are representing only 2 branch of a tree, then also we are having so many insects, we are having so many animals, we are having so many different types of the plants. If we are completely aware of the types of the microorganisms which are present on this planet Earth, then it is 23 or more than 23 branches which is already discovered, and still another 20 branches are yet to be discovered. They are already on a pipeline for the discovery. Then number of the branches would be more than 40. So at least even if each branch will have a same number of the diversity of the microorganisms may be definitely 20 to 25 times higher than the plants, animals and other insect diversity.
તો હવે આપણે ખ્યાલ આવ્યો હશે કે પ્લાન્ટ અને એનિમલ્સના કમ્પેરિઝનમાં માઇક્રો ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ કેટલા બધા ડાયવર્સ થઈ શકે છે. 20 તો ઓલરેડી ખબર છે ફાયલોજેનેટિક ડાયવર્સિટી, અને બીજી 20 એમના કહેવા પ્રમાણે હજી જેની આવવાની શક્યતા છે કે જેના ઉપર કામ ચાલી રહ્યું છે, અને પ્રોબેબલી ટોટલ ફાયલોજેનેટિક ડાયવર્સિટી 40 અથવા એના કરતાં પણ વધારે થઈ શકે છે. તો બીજું એક વસ્તુ હું પૂછવા માંગુ છું કે વોટ આર ધ ડિટેઇલ્ડ એલિમેન્ટ્સ ટુ સ્ટડી ધ માઇક્રોબિયલ ડાયવર્સિટી. માઇક્રોબિયલ ડાયવર્સિટીના સ્ટડીઝ માટે, અભ્યાસ માટે કયા કયા આપણે ક્રાઇટેરિયા, એલિમેન્ટ્સ આપણે વાપરી શકીએ છીએ?
As we have seen that to study microbial diversity is very difficult because they are very small in size. Hardly you can differentiate their shape. Hardly you can differentiate that other activity with a naked eyes. So different elements are used to study microbial diversity, which includes the size of the cells, shape of the cells, filamentous organisms or they are in other forms, cellular flexibility of these organisms, morphological changes in these organisms taking place, cytoplasmic inclusions which are present in these organisms, endospores are present or not. We can see the detail of this, each characteristics which represented by these organisms. Apart from this, how these organisms they are reacting with their neighbors, how they are reacting with the plants, how they are reacting with the animals. That shows the association relationship. On the basis of this, also this microorganism can be differentiated. If we take a single example of Escherichia coli, which all of you are knowing, so even a Escherichia coli which is present in the alimentary tract of all the living human being. So if the number of the human beings are in terms of lakhs of the people, then definitely even the Escherichia coli, it's having the diversity in terms of lakhs, because each individual host is having the different characteristics of these organisms. If you look at the physiological characteristics of these organisms, which relate to how these organisms they are responding to the presence of oxygens or absence of oxygens, how they are relating to the types of the nutrients. Normally we can use either fruit or a cooked food, while this microorganism they can eat even in case of the organic food, inorganic foods, how they are metabolizing, what types of the catabolic product produced from these organisms, what are the different characteristics of these catabolic products, how they will go for the nitrification, denitrifications, they can go for the oxidations, then they can go for the reductions of the substrates, and by doing this they leads to the various types of the diversity in terms of their habitats, temperature, pH, salinity, that we can see in other slides. Then what element is responsible for such diversity? So it is a genetic makeup. So this microorganism, even they are very small in size, they are having only one chromosomes, but if you look to the genetic makeup of this, and they are responsible for various characteristics in terms of nucleotides, genomic size, in terms of a particular keystone species, and the characteristics of a plasmids or episomes, then types of enzyme they are producing, you will find the diversity in these organisms. If you look to only one characteristic in terms of size, we refer that these organisms they are very very small. No, they are as small as less than 0.2 micrometers. And the same group of organisms which are included under the heading of microorganisms, they are as big as 80 to 600 micrometer in size, or some of them they are 100 to 750 micrometers in size. So this shows that, can you imagine, no, 0.2 and 750, so it is nearly more than 10,000 times. Can you imagine a person, animal or a plant which is having the variety of the size in terms of a 15,000 times a smaller and the bigger animals? It is not possible. So this is a particular things you can find in case of microorganisms.
Nicely explained, Dr. Dave. Basically animals ની અંદર, plants ની અંદર diversity એક outrightly દેખાઈ આવે છે કોઈ પણ માણસને કે સપોઝ આ એનિમલ છે, એનો શેપ આ છે, એની સાઇઝ આ છે, એનો આકાર આ પ્રમાણેનો છે. જ્યારે પ્લાન્ટ્સની અંદર પણ દેખીતા આપણી પાસે 10 પ્લાન્ટ્સ હોય તો તરત જ ખબર પડી શકે કે આ બધા પ્લાન્ટ્સ જુદા છે. પણ માઇક્રો ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સની અંદર આ એક મોટો પ્રોબ્લેમ છે કે એમની જે સાઇઝ છે એ ખૂબ જ નાની હોવા છતાં એની મોર્ફોલોજી પણ જે અમુક છે એ લિમિટેડ છે. એ લિમિટેડ મોર્ફોલોજીમાં આપણે જો એમને ડિટેલ સ્ટડી કરવા હોય તો આપણે એમના ઇન્ટરનલ એન્ઝાઇમ્સ, એમના ઇકોલોજીકલ ડિસ્ટ્રીબ્યુશન્સ, એમના ઇકોલોજીકલ રિલેશન્સ બીજા ઓર્ગેનિઝમ સાથે એ બધી સ્ટડી કરવી પડે. તો હવે એક ઘણી જગ્યાઓ પર અમે વાંચ્યું છે દવે સાહેબ કે માઇક્રો ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ જે છે એ એક્સ્ટ્રીમ એન્વાયરમેન્ટ્સની અંદર પણ ખૂબ જોવા મળતા હોય છે. એવા એન્વાયરમેન્ટ્સ કે જ્યાં આગળ આપણે કલ્પના પણ ના કરી શકીએ કે કોઈ જીવંત વસ્તુ મળી આવે. કાં તો બહુ લો ટેમ્પરેચર હોય, કાં તો ખૂબ હાઈ ટેમ્પરેચર હોય. તો આપ થોડો પ્રકાશ પાડશો એના ઉપર કે એક્સ્ટ્રીમ એન્વાયરમેન્ટ્સની અંદર માઇક્રો ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ કઈ કઈ જગ્યા ઉપર મળી આવે છે?
Yes, no, we want to study how these organisms are living in extreme environments. So in that conditions, we take the first example of a type of the particular organelle which is present in these organisms, and any bacillus which are sporulating organisms, so the types of the spore which is considered to be a heat resistant body. Now even in case of this spore, now it is having quite diverse in terms of endospore or exospores. It is having in terms of a shape of the spore. Sometimes it is round in shape, sometimes it's spherical in shape. Either in the place of the spore there will be central, terminal or subterminal. Sometimes it's swollen and non-swollen. So this particular body is responsible for the resistance to the temperatures. If you look to the extreme environments in which these organisms are living, so here we are considering the extreme environments, pressures. You cannot think about any living creature other than microorganism can live at a pressure of 1,000 atmosphere. No, we cannot. Normally we are living at 1 atmosphere, and this 1,000 atmosphere would be as heavy as a one individual human being is carrying a full train of nearly 40 to 50 bogie. And in these conditions, these organisms are living. A second characteristic, if we look to the temperatures, now even if we dip our hand in a water which is 50 to 60 degree temperatures, we are not comfortable. While these organisms, they are living at a temperature of 113, and very recently a scientist has identified one organisms which is comfortably growing and multiplying at 256 degree temperatures. Apart from this, they are living at a very cold temperatures. Now we are feeling the cold in Ahmedabad, and these organisms are very comfortable at below 0 degree centigrade temperatures, and range of these organisms were reported and already documented. They are living very comfortably minus 1.2 to 130 degree centigrade temperatures. If we look to the depth, now if somebody will put you under the earth, then we cannot survive for more than few seconds. While this organism, they can survive at a depth of 2,000 meter, and they would be growing even at a 10,000 meter depth of ocean floor. Can you think about what is the pressure of water when it is deep as deep as 10,000 meter? And what is the availability of oxygens? What is the availability of nutrients? Till these organisms are found at this place. If you talk in terms of salt concentrations, normally we are familiar that during the marriage time, now when the dula is coming, now people are giving a water with a salt. It may be having 1 or 2% salt. Then also we cannot drink. While these organisms, they are surviving, they are happily living at a concentrations of nearly 22 to 33% of a salt, which is corresponding to 4 to 5 millar of the salt concentrations. Acidity. We are already working on the organisms, acidophilic organisms, and we have the organisms which is growing at 0.4 pH. You cannot think it is as good as a concentrated H2SO4 or concentrated acids, and they are also growing at an alkaline pH of 11 or 12. And availability of water. Normally for any living creatures, water is very essential, and you cannot find other than microorganisms which can live below 0.9 water activity, while there are microorganisms which are surviving at 0.6 water activity. So this gives the idea regarding the extreme environment in which these organisms are living, and if you exploit these organisms, then sky is the limit that you will get the product. Sky is the limit where you can harness these organisms for your use.
1000 એટમોસ્ફિયરનું પ્રેશર, 256 ડિગ્રીનું ટેમ્પરેચર અને 10,000 મીટર ડેપ્થ ઉપર જો માઇક્રો ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ રહી શકતા હોય તો ઇટ ઇઝ નેચરલી હેડ્સ ઓફ ટુ ધેમ. એન્ડ પ્રોબેબલી એટલા માટે જ એવું કહેવામાં આવે છે કે ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ જ્યારે પૃથ્વીનો ઉત્પત્તિ થઈ ત્યારે સૌથી પહેલા એ હતા, હજી પણ એ જ રીતે છે અને ફ્યુચરમાં પણ સર્વાઈવ થઈ શકશે. કારણ કે ઇટ ઇઝ ધ એબિલિટી ઓફ ધીઝ ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ ટુ રેઝિસ્ટ ઓલ કાઇન્ડ ઓફ atmospheric disturbances, all kinds of extreme environments. So the next question is, what is the wide range of genetic diversity among the microorganisms?
if we look to the genetic diversity of these organisms, then definitely these organisms, they are very diverse. Because if you look to the human being or plants, and then the GC ratio would be very less. While in case of these microorganisms, the GC ratio, even in a different groups, they are 10 to 15 times wider than this whatever GC content we are looking to animals or plants. And we are having hundreds this type of the different organisms which are living in the form of individual cells having a very high GC ratios, which will be giving the particular different characteristics. And that is why when we want to identify this particular organisms, we are taking the help of this genomic research. There this any two species can be identified as identical when they are having more than 98% of the 16S rRNA analysis. And if we want to group them in terms of a genus, then definitely it should have more than 92% of the similarity, which is not found in case of the organism. Then they would be grouped in a different family. So this will give you the idea that genetic analysis of these organisms provide much more informations regarding the types of the DNA they are having, types of the RNA they are having, and why they are having these types of the diversity in terms of the genetic characteristics. We human being, we are having 23 pair of chromosomes, while this organism is having only one chromosome. In spite of this, why these organisms are showing such a wide characteristic? Because they are having the characteristics and presence of a plasmids, and these plasmids are responsible for the development of specific characteristics. As and when these organisms are living in extreme conditions, due to the development and due to the change in extreme conditions, these organisms are developing the plasmids, and these plasmids are giving a specific characteristics in terms of their physiological characteristics, in terms of their survival, in terms of their process to these organisms. Here you can see in terms of this genetic architects which was not shown. So E. coli is having 4.6 MB size, Mycoplasma is having 0.6 MB size, and Bacillus subtilis is having 4.2 MB size in the genomic characteristics. Chromosomal diversity you can find in case of the 3.0 to 0.9 MB, in case of the Rhodobacters. You can find in case of the Burkholderia 3.6, 3.2, 1.1 MB. And in case of other organisms also you can find as small as 0.56 MB. So this indicates that these organisms are having a very different characteristics. This will give you the idea that bacteria which are having the GC content in the range of 25 to 75%, while if you look to the plants which is having a range of 35 to 48% only. So this shows that such a wide range of a GC content will be responsible for a different characteristics in these organisms. And if you look to the slides, definitely you can say that whatever the difference in the G plus C content you can see in bacteria, that you cannot find in any other organisms or any other vertebrates or plants.
Naturally, now we know the secrets. હવે આપણને ખ્યાલ આવે છે કે માઇક્રો ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ કેમ આટલા બધા ડાયવર્સ કન્ડિશન્સની અંદર, ડાયવર્સ એન્વાયરમેન્ટની અંદર સર્વાઈવ થઈ શકે છે, ગ્રો થઈ શકે છે, કારણ કે જીનેટિક ડાયવર્સિટી ખૂબ જ વિપુલ પ્રમાણમાં છે. હવે એક બહુ મહત્વનો ક્વેશ્ચન એ છે, a very important question is what are the different methods or approaches? આપણે જો બાયોડાયવર્સિટી માઇક્રોબિયલ ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સની અંદર સ્ટડી કરવી હોય તો કઈ રીતે, કેવી રીતે, કયા લેવલ ઉપર આપણે એને સ્ટડી કરી શકીએ? દવે સાહેબ,
if we want to study microbial diversity, as I already told you, that it is very difficult to study this microorganism because they are small in size, they are not much difference, and whatever the method we are using, conventional methods, which also not appropriate to grow all this type of organisms. So we are using the different level of this studying microbial diversity. It is known as a polyphasic approach, where we are including a culture techniques and we are using culture independent techniques. In case of culture techniques, we are growing these organisms, and only the organisms which are growing on the plates that we can differentiate, while there are more than 95% of organisms we are not able to grow. For that organisms we are using either the isolation of DNA, we are using other methods to study this. And if we want to relate these two organisms, we have to go for 70% DNA-DNA hybridizations. And we can study the RNA analysis, which is useful for the these organisms for identifications. Now, why we have to use this method? If you look to this slide, you can find that now, even in 21st century, when so many methods are developed, so many different types of media are developed, then also we can cultivate less than 0.001 to 0.01% of the organism which are present in a seawater. It means more than 99% organisms we are not able to grow. And when we are not able to grow this organism, definitely we don't know how they are functioning. We don't know what is the role of these organisms. And the scenario is not different even in the other ecosystems. If you look to the fresh water, then we are able to grow hardly 0.25% of the total organism present in the fresh waters. If you look to the mesotrophic lake, then also this percent of the organism what we are growing is not increasing more than 1%. And if you go for unpolluted sites, then this ratio is going to the 3%. Activated sludge, which is giving the highest ratio of the cultivable organisms there, and which is reaching to the 15%. But the reason behind this is not a natural ecosystem. In case of activated sludge, normally we are adding the organisms for the treatment of the waste, and we are now identifying the organisms what we have added. And in spite of this, once this culture is growing in an open atmosphere, more than 85% of organisms, they are not recoverable, and we don't know about this. Similarly, in case of sediments, in case of soils, the types of the organism we are able to grow is below 0.5%. And this shows that till today, we don't know about the 99% of these organisms. Now, this will give you the idea that what we are lagging behind in terms of a microbial diversity.
વિદ્યાર્થી મિત્રો, તો હવે આપણને ખ્યાલ આવે છે કે આપણું નોલેજ અત્યારે એટ પ્રેઝન્ટ આટલા બધા સાયન્સના ડેવલપમેન્ટ પછી, આટલા બધા ટેકનિકોલોજીકલ એડવાન્સમેન્ટ્સ પછી પણ આપણે જો 1-2% વધારે માઇક્રો ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ જાણી નથી શકતા, તો માઇક્રોબાયોલોજીનું ફિલ્ડ હજી એટલું ઓપન છે કે તમે પોતે પણ ભવિષ્યની અંદર એની અંદર ખૂબ જ વધારે કોન્ટ્રીબ્યુટ કરી શકશો. કારણ કે 98% અથવા તો એનાથી પણ વધારે 98-99% ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સનો તો જે આપણને ખ્યાલ જ નથી. તો દવે સાહેબ, આપણે આ બધી વસ્તુ માટે એક વસ્તુ જાણવાની જરૂર છે કે કેમ આપણે આટલું ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સના માટે બહુ ઓછું જાણીએ છીએ. વાય વી નો સો લિટલ અબાઉટ ધીઝ માઇક્રોબિયલ ડાયવર્સિટી?
As we have seen that these organisms we are not able to cultivate 99%. In this slide also, no comparison is given regarding the bacteria, fungi, algae and viruses, and you will find that not more than 10% of any of these organisms are known to us. And if you compare it with in terms of a protozoa, nematode, earthworm, then also estimated numbers are very high, but the types of these organisms what we are describing is very less. So why we are not able to know? Because the types of the cultivation method we are using, now these methods are not sufficient, or we are not knowing what is the requirement of these organisms. We are providing the various types of media, but that types of the media may not be sufficient, or they are not fulfilling the requirement of this organism. That is why we have to study the various measurement techniques which quantify the biodiversity, which quantification with the different facts and the dimensions in terms of habitats, in terms of physiology, in terms of the metabolic activity of these organisms, which should give the idea regarding the species richness. Because if we want to find out the presence or absence of this organism may not be sufficient, but we should know what is the total number of this organism. Then we can compare this particular soil or this particular water is having high number of these organisms, which is rich in these organisms. So this particular habitat would be useful for X or Y purpose. Then count of the entities, elements responsible for this diversity, either it is pH or temperature or micro niches. As we know that this organism, they are very small. They are in terms of a micrometer size. So even if you go to a 1 inch different from A place to B place, the habitat will change, and you will find the gradients of habitats, and these habitats are responsible for the difficulty in cultivation of these organisms. Now, how you can have this microbial diversity ecological study? So cultivation dependent, which is idea is very good, because you can get the organisms, you can use these organisms for various purpose, but that will giving less than 1 or 2% of the organisms. That's why we are shifting to the culture independent methods, which includes sequence informations of 16S rRNA sequences, which includes RNA target taggings, FISH methods, which is also allowing the other phylogenetic responsibility by using the biolog systems where metabolical difference of this organism can be detected.
Now, what strategy would you like to develop for isolating these organisms?
As we have discussed this, this cultivation of this organism is very difficult. So we have to adopt a various cultivation techniques. Why these organisms are not cultivated? So first thing is requirement of fastidious organisms. These organisms are requiring a specific requirements. So instead of preparing a media in the laboratory, if you prepare extract of that particular habitats, as for example, if you want to isolate organisms from a sea source, then you have to take a soil sample from a sea source, then boil it and prepare an extract. If you want to isolate this organism from a plant, then take that plant tissue and boil it and find out the extract and use this. Then you have to find out which target population you are interested, because each target organism, they are having the different requirements. Even if you look to the types of the media, then a book which is having more than 3000 pages and each page is having 3 or 4 medium, and this media is not sufficient to give growth of more than 5% of this organism. Means if you are using so many thousands of a media, then also you cannot grow. So for that purpose, now you have to separate the cells from that ecosystem. Otherwise what will happen? Normally while growing, we are preparing the suspensions, but that suspension is not giving the complete detachment of organisms. If you use very harsh method, then organism will die. So you have to find out which is the best method to separate them so they will not be killed, and at the time we can get these organisms. Then other things, now mimicking the particular habitat in which they are living. That's what I told you, by preparing the extracts or by adding that particular substrate itself from which they are isolated. Then dilution of the medium. We know, suppose if you don't know the swimming and somebody will push you in a swimming pool, then definitely you cannot swim. Similar way, that when you are isolating organism from a plant surface or a soil, no, they are not habituated to grow in a liquid medium. And if you are directly transferring to liquid medium, no, that is, they will not survive. Now, if you look to the any ecosystems, we are not providing 1% peptone or 1% glucose or types of the ingredient we are adding in the laboratory, and directly normally we are transferring this organism in a rich medium. So what happens if you take lot of food at a time? Now you get the indigestion, and same thing is happening to this organism. So for this reason, the best method which was cultivated for the cultivation of this organism use, you have to dilute a normal media at least 1:100 times. And when you are diluting any specific medium which you are using, or a normal medium you are using to 1:10 or 1:100 times, then you will get at least 60% more cultivable organisms. So such a simple techniques would be useful to grow these organisms. Then you should require the patience. What is happening? Normally a biologist will cultivate the organisms, they will come on the next day, they will observe the plates, and they will find out what types of organisms are growing. If they are growing fungi, they will wait for 1 or 2 days, and then they are normally discarding the plates. But if you incubate all these plates without taking whatever the precaution I have told you, what the conventional method we are using, if you incubate this plate for 7 days or 21 days, definitely you will get more than 80% different new organisms which you have not come across while the conventional methods. So this requires the patience of the observation. Why it is happening? On the next day, or in case of fungi, within 2 or 3 days, only those organisms which are growing at a fast rate, no, they are developing the colony. While those organisms which are not growing at the fast rate, no, they require the longer times. And if we discard your culture media after 2 days or 4 days, definitely you will not come across the organisms which are growing at a slow speed. The second thing which is happening is a weedy bacteria. Normally, if those who are farmers, no, they know that when you want to cultivate a plant, and if you are not taking proper care of the field, then the weed will grow, the grass will grow, because grass and weed, they are growing much more fast as compared to your crop. So this weedy bacteria, those who are growing the fast bacteria, if you will not take the precaution to suppress them, then they will not allow the growth of the slow growing organism. So this you have to take precautions when you are growing. Then avoid the stress. As we are isolating organisms from a solid medium or liquid medium or water. And if you take about the water, sea water or a fresh water, hardly there is any nutrients. There are only some minerals. And if you are transferring them in a rich medium, no, then that will give the nutritional shock. And that nutritional shock will kill more than 90 to 95% of organisms. Then, as I said, that you have to separate these organisms, and if you are using the harsh method for the separations, no, they will kill the bacteria. So you have to use some of the very mild method of separations. You can take the advantage of motility of this organism, chemotoxic characteristics of these organisms, and you put a particular food which this organism like. So definitely the motile organism will move towards this food and they will separate it from a solid media. Or you use the submagnet, so magnetotoxic organisms will also move to that particular side and they will be separated. You can talk about the photosynthetic organisms. You can provide the light source at one end of the tube, then this organism will move and they can be separated without any harm, without any destructions of that physiological or morphological characteristics. And if you use these methods, then definitely the scenario would be changed, and you, at least definitely you can increase from 5% to 10 or 15% of a cultivable organisms.
દવે સાહેબ, આપણે બહુ મહત્વની વાત કરી કે અત્યારે સુધી અમે માઇક્રોબાયોલોજીસ્ટ તરીકે એવું જ જાણતા હતા કે નોર્મલ જે મીડિયમ છે એમાં ગ્રોથ ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સનો થાય છે, પણ આજે એક વસ્તુ નવી જાણવા મળી મિત્રો કે ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સને 1000 ગણું 100 ગણું ડાયલ્યુટ કર્યા પછી પણ એની અંદર ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ ઓલિગોટ્રોપિક ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ ગ્રો થઈ શકે છે. તો તમે જાણો છો કે હવે દવે સાહેબે સમજાવ્યું એ પ્રમાણે કે કેટલી ડિફિકલ્ટીથી આ ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ આઇસોલેટ કરી શકાય છે. જો એ પ્રોપર ટેકનિક્સને ધ્યાન આપવામાં આવે તો આપણે હજી પણ ઘણા બધા નવા ઓર્ગેનિઝમ શોધી શકીએ છીએ. દવે સાહેબ, આપણી પાસે થોડો ટાઈમનો અભાવ હોવાથી આપણે 2-3 વસ્તુ હું તમને ખાસ પૂછવા માંગીશ કે આ બાયોડાયવર્સિટીનો અભ્યાસ કરવાથી આપણને શું ફાયદો થાય છે, અને બીજો સવાલ એ પણ છે સાથે સાથે કે બાયોડાયવર્સિટીથી ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રી અને એન્વાયરમેન્ટને શું લાભ કે શું હાનિ પહોંચે છે? સજ આપણે ડિટેલમાં જણાવશો મને?
As we have studied this biodiversity, now first of all we will look to now what are the different benefit we will get in case of if we are knowing the more and more biodiversity. Suppose today if you look to the types of the industry, then most of the vitamin, most of the antibiotic and other product produce, no, they are by these microorganisms, and these microorganisms are producing these useful products. Now when we are knowing less than 1% of these organisms, still we are having so many products. So if we cultivate more organisms and that 1% will go to the 10%, not even to the 100%, then definitely we can get a 10 times more products. If we take how these organisms can be useful, suppose we take the material sources, then these organisms may be used as a service. Now what type of the service this organism will give? They are giving the products, but what type of the service? Suppose if you want to convert some particular products, if you want to convert ferrous sulfate to ferric sulfate, then you can inoculate these organisms. Under the acidic conditions, this ferrous sulfate will not be oxidized to ferric sulfate in the absence of microorganisms, and whatever rate of the conversion of ferrous to ferric, and if you compare the rate of the conversion of ferrous to ferric in the presence of this acidic thiobacillus ferrooxidans, then it is 10,000 times higher. It is 10,000 times higher. So this is the service you can get from these organisms. Then it will also help in case of the prerequisite of these organisms in terms of a in situ process and ex situ process. Suppose in situ process, if you go for bioleaching and by using these microorganisms, even at the age of more than 4000 BC, now these organisms were doing in situ leaching and they will be producing the copper sulfate from the sulfide ores. And at that time nobody was knowing that microorganisms, they are existing on the planet Earth. Still we are used to get these organisms and their activity. What other types of the service this organism can provide us, that is in terms of a non-marketable products. How, no, we are not talking about only the commercial aspect, but we are using about non-marketable products in terms of environmental modulations. We talk about the any beach. Now if you go to a Goa or Bombay, then the sand will come turns black in color because due to the production of H2S. While if you are using this sulfide oxidizing organisms, then no, they will oxidize this sulfide into the sulfate and the sand will become white, and nobody would like to play in a black sand. If you look to in terms of a ecosystem functioning, now it's a very big list. that what type of ecological or ecosystem functioning these microorganisms are doing. If you take the example of a soil, if you take example of a fertility of the soil, if you take about the carbon dioxide samples, cycles, nitrogen cycles, sulfur cycles, phosphorus cycles, all these cycles are mainly run by the growth of this microorganism and activity of these organisms. They are also used for the wastewater treatment, they are used for the bioleaching treatment, they are used as a biofilters, they can use as biocatalysts, they can be used as a fine chemicals in pharmaceuticals, they would be used as a laboratory agents, they would be used as a diagnostic agents, and emerging use of the microbial diversity. Now they can be used as a DNA array methods, as a biosensors, specialized research in case of the service, and what the people are talking in 21st century is nanotechnology, and how this nanotechnology came into existence. The cell of E. coli, which is having hardly 1 or 2 micrometer in size, which is having around 100 flagella, and each flagellum is having governed by individual motors. So a 1 micrometer cell is having nearly hundreds motors which are accommodated in 1 micrometer size, and that has given birth to the nanotechnology.
તો હવે આપણને સજ અંદાજો આવી શકે છે કે ઘણા બધા સાયન્ટિસ્ટો એમ કે છે કમિંગ ડિકેડ ઓર રાધર સેન્ચુરી belongs to microorganisms because so many products, so many services will be provided by microorganisms. હવે આ ચર્ચાનો આપણે અંત લાવતા પહેલા દવે સાહેબ એક વસ્તુ હું જાણવા માંગીશ ખાસ કે આ માઇક્રો ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સની આટલી બધી ડાયવર્સિટી છે તો આપણે એને કન્ઝર્વેશન માટે કયા કયા રસ્તાઓ અપનાવીએ છીએ અને એ કન્ઝર્વેશનના લિમિટેશન્સ શું હોય છે?
When we want to conserve these microorganisms, definitely we have to think about the types of organism what we are transferring. So tools used for the conservations is in situ, where we are transferring wild type of organism instead of a genetically manipulated organisms. If you are transferring genetically manipulated organism and in ecosystems, they may be growing faster. But once they will start growing faster, then they will suppress the normal organisms. Now what happened? Now today we are very much crazy to use basmati rice. If all the people are using the basmati rice, then the farmer will not cultivate. Even in Gujarat itself, we are having 30 to 34, 50 types of different variety of rice. So we will not get it. Then you have to use non-living conservation techniques for the growth of these organisms. Now the deforestations, urbanizations, excessive minings and monocultures which are responsible for the loss of the biodiversity. So we should stop these types of the activity, and these organisms, no, monoculture should not be allowed. You have to go for multicultures, you have to go for the variety of the microorganisms. As we have discussed in one of the slides, the richness and evenness of this microbial community is very important for the survival of these organisms. By using the biotechnology, we can conserve this, that is protein and protein peptides. So you cannot use the normal plants or any other material for this. You can have the lipids and fatty acids from the microorganisms. You can have carbohydrates from microorganisms, and the list is very vast. You can just tell any substrate, you can just tell any product, and there is one or other organism which can produce this. So if you are using these organisms, then we are not destroying plants or animals for the growth, for the development of these products. So this way we can conserve the microbial diversity. But what are the limitations, as you have asked? Because if we are knowing so much things, but why we are not able to conserve? The first limitation is our limited knowledge. As I said during my talk, that today we are knowing less than 5% of organisms. When you don't know about the 95% of organisms, we don't know what is their requirements, what is the physiology of these organisms. And when you are not knowing, it is just you are firing in a dark. And that's why first of all, we should get the knowledge about the microbial diversity, then the lack of the measurability. Or you cannot find out what is the extent, no, what is the rate of this metabolic activity in one particular extreme condition they are living. So if you are having all these types of the data, then and then you can grow this organism, you can preserve these organisms. Then consistency of the knowledge. In case of the species characteristics of microorganisms and species characteristic of the plant and animal, now there is lot of difference. So we are not having this particular species characterization of this habitat, and due to this it is very difficult to conserve these organisms. Unwillingness to conserve due to certain reasons. If we take the example of poor people, we cannot say them, don't cut this tree, because they are cutting the tree for their bread and butter. And same thing, if we require then particular organisms, we are harvesting it, we are using the resources, and we are using the resources in a very extensive manner. And once the resources are depleted, this organism will be also lost. Then poverty of this country, many countries, they are so poor, and due to this, you cannot say that we want to preserve these ecosystems for the conservation of the microorganisms. No, we have to use that ecosystem for either for irrigation purpose or for cultivation of the plant or for forest or for mining. And when you are using this, definitely we lose the microbial diversity.
એક અંતમાં એક જ વસ્તુ પૂછું કે આનો ભવિષ્યમાં ગ્લોબલ ઇમ્પેક્ટ શું થશે અને ફ્યુચર શું છે માઇક્રોબિયલ ડાયવર્સિટીનો?
If we look to the global impact, as we have already discussed that now we are having so many products, so many environmental services from these microorganisms. Now if we are getting more and more knowledge regarding the diversity of these organisms and we are able to conserve them, definitely now you can see from the chart the global changes which are taking place in terms of a population dynamics, in terms of a economics ecosystem functioning, in terms of a biological diversity, in terms of a landscape dynamics. No, they are interrelated with each other and sustainable ecosystem. Why we want to grow in this world? No, we want a sustainable development. We want to be happy, and for that sustainability of any ecosystem is must. And that is why if we grow these microorganisms, it leads to the sustainability of the ecosystems and survival of these ecosystems.
So, વિદ્યાર્થી મિત્રો, હવે આપણને ખ્યાલ આવ્યો કે આપણે માઇક્રો ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ વિશે કેટલું જાણીએ છીએ. પ્રોબેબલી 2-5% વધારે આપણે હજી સુધી આપણા જ્ઞાનમાં કોઈ વધારો થયો નથી. તો આ બાબત આપણને અને તમને બધાને જરૂર પ્રેરણા આપશે કે આપણે માઇક્રો ઓર્ગેનિઝમ્સ ઉપર વધારે ભણીએ, વધારે રિસર્ચ કરીએ, જેથી કરીને આપણે એનો વધારે સારી રીતે યુઝ કરી શકીએ અને આપણું એન્વાયરમેન્ટ અને સસ્ટેનેબલ ડેવલપમેન્ટ થઈ શકે. આપને એ પણ ખ્યાલ આવ્યો હશે કે એક સબ્જેક્ટ એક્સપર્ટ જ્યારે આપણી સાથે હોય અને એ એક પર્ટિક્યુલર ટોપિક ડિસ્કસ કરતા હોય તો એમની ફ્લુઇડિટી, એમનું ઇન ડેપ્થ નોલેજ એ કેટલા લેવલ સુધી આપણને વસ્તુ સાંભળવા માટે અને વસ્તુ જાણવા માટે રસ તરબોળ કરી દે છે, એ ડૉક્ટર દવેના ભાષણ ઉપરથી, એમના એક્સપ્લેનેશન ઉપરથી આપણને ખ્યાલ આવ્યો. તો થેન્ક યુ દવે સાહેબ. આઈ વુડ લાઇક ટુ thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of the students. Otherwise, probably students would not get a chance to hear from such an expert in the field of microbial diversity. Finally, I would like to thank Department of Higher Education for sponsoring such a program, as well as the crew and staff members of BISEC department who have taken so much of pains to bring this program live. Thank you very much.
It is my pleasure.